Oh boy, what is that? Uh, well, all right, little early tunes here. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year in advance. Let me get on camera. Hello, 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 hello. Hey, 18, Milani. Hello, how you guys doing? We're going to talk about marriage today. I thought I'd follow up my last week's video with some more marriage talk. And this time we're going to leave all the poison pill stuff on the side. We're going to just talk about two people, a man and a woman, who actually want to be married. And what do they do from that standpoint on, as opposed to dating and wasting time and situational ships and courting and all the so-called pee that's in the pool? What do you do when two people actually meet together and say, you know what, in my plans, I'd like to get married? If a man says that to a woman says that to a man, they don't know each other that well at just meeting. So we're not saying we're going to marry each other, but if we're going to do this, why don't we do it with an intentional plan? What does that look like? You know, what does that look like? Because I don't think we talk about that enough. The truth of the matter is, no matter how bad the statistics are, people are still getting married. I mean, people are actually still getting married. I mean, I know I feel like the dinosaur in these streets, but it's just not true. Uh, so we're going to go through, a couple of examples. You know me, I like to throw up videos so I don't have to do all the talking. But a while ago when I first came up here, I put up a definition of the difference between courting and dating. So we'll get to that in a second. But still, I just wanted to kind of emphasize the fact that we'll go through some examples of people who actually still get married. There's a young lady that I follow here on YouTube. She's married 7 years, and she has a pretty good YouTube channel. Listen, and so I'm not gonna entertain any stuff about people who don't want to get married. I don't want to talk about that. I know how bad it is out there. So anybody who doesn't want to get married, that's fine. Just don't get married. Let's stop messing up the statistics. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. So I got some videos, like I said. So this sister, I think her two YouTube channels called Just Girl Talk, and somehow came across my feed, and I have one little short video of her, a couple of clips, and then there's a couple called the Pars, and the Pars are. They're a married couple. I think they're in their early 40s, but they talk about their courtship, and I guess they have several videos, but we're not going to show all of them. But I'm going to talk about. I'm going to let them tell their story, how they met, how they courted, and I see some similarities in what happened with me. And they're much younger than I am, so this is not about 87s. I believe they got married in the 2000s, and maybe a little later. I don't know the exact year. So some things I think are timeless. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And we're going to show some videos. And I was watching a football game, and I'll get to that, where a couple of guys just asked their girls to marry them. What's going on, Trey? What's going on, Edward? Okay. So one of the things I wanted to do is just kind of talk about the title. How about just intentionally courting for marriage? And people who just want to be in situational ships, this stream ain't for you, and the title's not for you, and we don't have to get into those arguments. I don't want to talk about that anymore. So not today. There's plenty of time for that, flipping tables, barbershop talk, all that kind of stuff. So for folks who actually want to be betrothed in a covenant marriage, like I said, what does that look like in 2024? And for the few people who actually still want to do it, well, we talk about that a little bit. Maybe it's not that exciting, but, one of the thoughts I've had is, if you meet somebody, as opposed to, and you don't want to just hook up, and your head is like, if I'm getting involved with a person, a woman, I want it to lead somewhere. I want it to lead to marriage. Why not tell that person early on, first few dates, hey, this is my intention. And if it's not your intention, let me know so I can move on. Now, here's where the rub is for most guys. Now, I shouldn't even say for most guys, but for a lot of men, if you get a woman willing to go out with you and hang out with you, and you tell her what your intentions are, like she says to you, "Hey, listen, I just want to smash." You have to be the guy who has to be serious about your intentions, because if you go smash her, then are you really intentionally looking for a wife? Because I think you take a step backwards if you can't say, okay, you know what, maybe we don't have to continue with this situation. My number. If anything changes for you and I'm still available, you give me a call. If I'm not available no more, then that's okay. And then you move on to the next woman you're looking to get married. But if you derail your plan and you just go smash this chick, I don't think you're moving forward in your intentional thoughts. And that's just the way I know from my own experience. I know when I was looking for a wife, I had this. I mean, it's not like I was having 1,000 different women. I mean, but I had enough to know that I could have stayed stuck in that matrix for a while, and I might have missed my opportunity. And that's just the way I see it. A lot of people don't see it that way, but that's fine. That's what makes the world great. We don't have to see shit the same way. I like that. Anyway, so I got a couple of definitions while people come in, like vetting, right? So what is vetting? There's all kinds of, I guess, definitions for vetting depending on where you look it up. So, I mean, I just went to Google and put down, vetting, It says, what is vetting? Vetting is the process of thoroughly investigating an individual, company, or entity before making a decision to go forward. For example, a joint project, a partnership, or a marriage. That's what vetting is. Putting all your ducks in a row. We're not going to talk about ways to vet. At least I'm not. That's a whole different discussion, and then we can get wrapped around the axle on that. But two people who get together and say that they want to get married, then they understand they have to vet each other if they want to find out whether they're compatible for each other with the goal of marriage. So they'll have to vet each other. And there's so many different ways to do that, whether they're religious, whether they're secular, whether they have mentors, whether they find some couples who are successfully married. And notice, I didn't say happily married. I said successfully married. And with their ducks in a row, you can go ahead and figure that shit out on your own. The key is that you don't want to just fool around with the chick, and she doesn't want to just fool around with you, wasting time. We'll talk about a little bit of that later on. Then there's courtship, right? Courtship is different than dating. Of course, sometimes they get used interchangeably, but so when we talk about courting is usually, right, pre-matrimonial, right? Just like when you court, there's a end goal. The end goal is typically marriage, and it's a period where the couple gets to know each other, right? Get engaged in a romantic relationship, and when we say romance is smashing out every night, there could be boundaries. Some people actually do wait to marriage, believe it or not. Some people, might test the waters, but it's not the main thing. It depends on. I know more in the modern era, you're smashing the chick out. Everybody knows that. But but the goal is still a goal, right? And if how well she performs in the bedroom is part of your vetting process, then it's a good thing that y'all don't get married. And it's the same thing for her, If you ain't doing it for her and she said, I don't think I could be married to this shit for a long time, then it's good that y'all don't get married. And dating on the other hand is a casual affair. And there's no commitment involved, right? People think they're committed, but I don't believe it's true. Dating partners may not even get into the courting relationship phase later on. They're just smashing each other. Unfortunately, too many babies are born. And let me take that word unfortunately back, because I don't want to put any disparity on the kids, right? Some of the kids are, once they're here, it's not their fault, right? So they got to be taken care of. So I'm just saying from a relationship standpoint, we say the best pinnacle to success is when the kid has their pops around all the time and things of that nature. So let's leave the kids out of it. But sometimes, those relationships fall apart. And if you only just plan to just hook up and friends with benefits and just be friends, and not even friends, but lovers, I think we have enough receipts to know where that leads, right? And I don't want to just use the internet as the receipts for that, but I mean, it's all around us, right? There's failed relationships much more than there probably failed marriages, to tell you the truth. But anyway, but I don't have any statistics on that. That's just me talking. So I do have a clip that I want to play because, listen, you got to stay to the end because the last set of clips I have is by the Parr, Mr. and Mrs. Parr, they're a young couple, and they talk about how they went through the process of being married to each other and some of their challenges that they had to face because it was a long distance courtship. They use the word dating in their title, but they're talking about courting because the same guy has he has a video with the differences between courting and dating. So I think if you could go back, he changed the word dating to courtship. But the first video I wanted to show you is from a lady that I think all of us will get a kick from, get a kick out of. So I'll be surprised. I'll let her tell it. So stay tuned.
Marriage.
Oh,
I already
wow.
knew, like,
You already
when I was
knew.
16, I was like,
Wow.
I'm making this decision. I had a whole little ceremony and everything. I had a little chastity ring.
So
I was like, I'm gonna
sweet.
save myself until marriage, and I made the vow. I knew myself enough to know, like, or maybe my mom knew myself enough to know, because she told me when I was that age, like maybe like 15 or 16, she's like, we talk about sex and all the things. And she's like, every time you have sex with someone, you're giving a piece of yourself to them.
Yeah.
And then you will never fully be able to give all of yourself to your husband. And how beautiful would that be, that you would be able to give your whole self in all its entirety to your husband? And I just like locked in on that.
incredible.
Something about that, because you hear about it in church and all the
Yeah,
Christian
yeah.
ways, but when she broke it down to me like that, I was like, oh, shoot, like if that's the way to do it, I need to do it that way. So
No, for real. You saved yourself a
Probably,
lot of
like,
heartbreak and stress.
I was able to, like, I feel like that can sometimes blanket a relationship. It can be like this like tie that you don't even know, especially with women. We don't realize that that connection is chemical. It's literally scientific that you are connecting with this person.
Yeah.
So it can be hard to leave a situation that you can't even see that it's not for you, because you have this bond with them. So you're like, oh no, I love him. I love him. No, you love that
Listen.
and you're dickmatized. But I'm not like pooping on anybody who like doesn't do that. But I was just like, this is my decision, and I'm glad I found the person who was willing to put in the work to be a husband.
All right. Well, let me stop this one. So there's so there you go. There's a woman. So there are still virgins out there. She's a young woman and she wanted to be married. What's going on, Edward? Yeah. Okay. How do we know? I got a lot. I hope there's like a lot of sirens and stuff outside. I hope you guys can't hear it that well. I'm sorry, I can't do anything about it, man. I don't know what the hell's going on. Cops are going crazy outside. Anyway, hey Trey, you know what? How come I'm not surprised you don't believe her? Did the wig give her away? Oh my God, man. So Jesus Christ. Anyway, so listen. Again, I just want to go through a couple of ladies who are married who have difference of opinions, and I just wanted to share that with you. There's another sister from that just a girl talk, and she's married for 7 years, and she says a couple things. I think she might be good to listen to as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and share that real early on, so you guys can hear somebody else talk about it besides just me. Where's it at? All right.
My name is Janine. If you are new here, please be sure to subscribe before we get into the conversation. So, ladies, let's talk about it. Let's talk about marriage. Horse and carriage. You know what I'm saying? Let's really talk about it. So, yo, I'm married. I've been married for 7 years, and I really enjoy being married. Like, I really do. And I really hate how I hear married women giving advice to single women, like bashing it, like, don't get married. I'm married, but don't do it. And I'm just like, you're giving, like, what gives you the right to try to stop another woman from finding her one true love and building a foundation with her family? Like, that to me is like, blows my mind that married women are now demonizing marriage because they are not in a healthy, maybe their marriage is not going as good as they would have liked, right? So, like, then that's what we do. Because my marriage is not going great, I go out here and spread negativity about marriage. Like, that is really crazy, right? And listen to this. I know that I'm not even gonna say that, because people say marriage is not for everybody, right? I believe that if we stop being so selfish as people, as women, marriage can be for everybody, right? Like, who says you are not capable of being a companion, having a partner, right?
This is where I disagree with her. Marriage is definitely not for everybody. Definitely not. I think if anything shows that part is not true is the modern era, because it was so easily destroyed by commercialism and feminism and things of that nature. I don't think marriage is for everybody. It may never have been for everybody, but I think it is the cornerstone of civilization, society. Marriages are the buffer between people moving in a like-minded direction against maybe even the government. But you know what? But it's not for everybody. Can't say that.
And I find that in the Black community, for many of us as Black women, we don't see enough marriages, right? We just don't. So we are speaking from, we're not even speaking from our personal experience when we say, oh, marriage don't work. Marriage is this, marriage is that. You've never even personally spoken to anyone about marriage. You're only going off what you've seen, what you've heard, social media, celebrities, all of that. So then you internalize it and put that onto yourself. Like, you will never find a good husband. And that it may not be true at all. You know what I'm saying? If you really do the work. And like I said, I feel like there are so many people demonizing marriage and they're calling it just a piece of paper. And I've never felt that way, right? So I grew up in a home. My mom was not married. My parents were never married. So for me, I wouldn't say I grew up wanting to be married. I didn't really fantasize about what I would wear on my wedding day. I never had any of those thoughts. I really didn't think about marriage until I got with my husband. Like, I didn't. I really felt like, well, what do we do next? You know what I'm saying? Like, we love each other. We have a family. We are building a family. So, like, why not get married? And I think for me, what made it easier, because my husband grew up in a home with his parents who were married, so he always wanted marriage. So I didn't feel like I had to like buy him into it. I didn't feel like I was trying to force a man to marry me or force marriage down his throat, which I think a lot.
All right. So listen, one thing I think Trey said here, and I can't find it. I think onto something about the class of the man now these days. I don't necessarily say marriage is for just broke men, but definitely it's a lot safer for men who aren't men of means, because the ladies that's with them, have to, the man is a little bit more assured that the woman that's with him wants to be with him and not for his resources, and that she's willing to build something with him. I think I do agree that the richer you are, the tougher it is to vet a woman and the more safeguards that you're going to have in. And it's unfortunate it's that way, but feminism and women have made it that way. And the laws in this country have made it that if you're an ultra rich man, you have to really, really understand that you're putting everything you work for at risk by being married. When you can certainly have your children a la carte and just pay whatever child support and, haggle it out in family court on who gets custody. I think that's true too. So there is a class divide in marriage. And the rich men who still get married, you're either so rich that if she took a half, it doesn't mean shit, right? Bezos didn't sweat. As long as he still had the company, he gave his wife, $67 billion. And then he was the richest man again a year later. But, if you're just a regular smuggler millionaire and you did everything you can, now you're 60 years old, it's tougher. Hey, Albert C., what's going on, Milani and everybody else? So that's worth a discussion. But today we're just talking about people who actually want to get married, and kind of doesn't matter what the money is. You just want to find somebody who's in the same mind frame of actually saying, listen, if we're going to get together, we got to put a plan together that we're going to go down the aisle in some matrimony. The vetting process is going to be different for everybody, right? Depending on where people start from. Anyway, so that's that. So that's how I look at that. So let's continue with the sister a little bit. She has some more stuff to say.
A lot of women are like, I ain't forcing a man to marry me. And I feel like that helped us come together and like really see the value and importance of our family being one, because he saw the beauty of marriage and like seeing his parents all his life, had the foundation. He wanted the same for his family. And I feel like it made it easy for me to want it as well with somebody who already wanted it. I feel like, to be honest, like what if I didn't have a man in my life at that time who didn't want marriage, and I let him convince me I didn't want marriage? You know what I'm saying? I think that also happens too, where I feel like a lot of women who say they don't want marriage are being convinced by other people that they don't need marriage. Like it's like your mom saying, or people are saying like, oh, well, y'all been together forever. Y'all, y'all got all this going on. Y'all happy. Marriage ain't gonna change anything. What do you need to be married for? Like almost like when you bring it up to people, your friends and your family, they will then tell you, girl, marriage don't solidify anything. Marriage don't make anything different. And that's the idea of like, well, you know what, girl, you're right. Like, we don't even gotta do that. We don't even have to waste our time. And it's like, that's crazy to me. That's crazy to me that we have now. Somebody alarm.
Yeah.
As I was saying, I forgot what I was saying, y'all. But I pretty proud what I was saying. But no, so I just think that, marriage looks different for everyone. And I think us internalizing what we think is going to be our story based on other people is kind of how many of us are living our lives, which is not healthy. Right? We're not even giving ourselves a chance. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. I think what my husband and I have is such a beautiful thing. And it's beautiful because we both want it. You know what I'm saying? We both put the work in. Am I going to say it's just blissful and it's always easy and it's always just perfect? No, it's work. That's what I'll say. Marriage is work. It is work. You cannot just like try to not, like, you try to take a test and not study. You got to put the work in to get the good grade. You got to put the work in your marriage to get good results. And I think that if two people understand that, it will change the whole idea of like marriage. I think people have made it seem like it's like the hardest thing on earth to do. And once you get married, you don't have no identity. And once you get married, you don't matter. And it's like, no, you cannot be selfish, right? It's not just about you anymore, right? You have a partner, a companion, a husband that you have to think about, right? But it doesn't mean that you don't matter. You can't do nothing. You're in this controlling situation. Your life is over. You're doomed. And I hate when I hear women talk like that. Like it's like your life is like a black cloud. It's like for me, life only got greater. Life only became more beautiful. I've said this before many times on having girl talk conversations. It is an honor and a blessing for me to share the same last name as my children. Us to all four share the same last name.
All right, so we can stop it there. So I don't disagree with her on that one. But it's a blessing, and definitely more women should look at marriage as an honor. But I think men, when they're begging women to marry them, dishonor the vows of marriage. You can't be begging her. You got to show her that she deserves to be your wife through her actions, And so when you say, "Hey, do you want? I would like to marry you," it's not you. Really, some guys say you shouldn't even bend the knee. Anyway, so I got a couple other videos that are popping up by themselves. But anyway, so there you have it. A cowardice reason. There you have it. So there's a couple of guys that got married young, and I'm one of those kind of advocates. If you're going to get married, do it young. It's a conversation I had with my daughters. I was hoping one of them would have been off the market. The other one's just not ready for that yet. But, you know, I told them why it's better to do it young, but you can't make anybody get married. So I'm not trying. So I don't belabor that particular point. But I think when I look at it, I think both men and women give young, especially women, they give younger women the worst advice. And I'm not saying get married at 18. If you're college bound, you know, yeah, you can finish college first and maybe have a couple of years of working or whatever. But if you find that guy and your intentions are to get married, don't wait till you're in your 30s. I think that's crazy. I think there's no more flexibility than you'll have than when you're in your 20s, and you can grow and build something together where you'll share all these experiences, getting to grow close spiritually and everything else. And so what? This whole notion of what Black women have coined as struggle love it's just horseshit. It's just the challenges of life that you have to go through. It's not like people don't struggle in their 30s if you call it struggle, right? So this whole waiting for a guy to be at his finish line. And for men, trauma for men is not the same as it is for women. So I tell them, if you have a plan and you have your plan set in your 20s, again, you're 25, 26, and you're looking for a wife, there's nothing wrong with getting married. I would just tune out all the people telling you not to do it. Now, if you don't have a job, if you can't feed yourself, if you're not even at a level where you're self-sustaining, that's another story. But we're not talking about those kind of people. We're talking about people who are ready to get married. I think a 28-year-old, 27-year-old couple getting married is a beautiful thing. And even if they were a little younger, but it's a beautiful thing. They say the average marriage age is like 31 now and getting older. But both men and women, especially women, the older they get, the more inflexible they are about the way they live. And they can't be groomed, per se, to the man that they're married to. They want to be the leaders. They want to be all this shit. Most men don't want to come home to that bullshit, right? And you see the women who make a little bit of money, they don't understand. You take your hypergamy with you. The higher you go on that scale, the less you're going to have selection from at that level. And the men at that level certainly ain't going to want to come home and hear your blabbering mouth. They're just not. You know what I'm saying? So anyhow, that's just the way it goes. Being younger, I think, is better to be married. I think we should start telling guys, yeah, you should get on your grind. But if you find a woman who's right for you, you can still build an empire and be married at the same time. You absolutely can. So anyway, that's just my thoughts and feelings about it. So I got a couple of guys that I'm going to show who actually said, hell with everybody. We're getting married and we're just starting out and we're in our 20s and we're getting married and we got money and I don't care. Right? I'm going to get married. Let's see, who's the first one?
Falcons rookie quarterback Michael Penix Jr. announced his engagement to girlfriend Olivia Carter on Saturday, just days after making his first NFL start on December 22nd. The sweetest love, Red Heart Olivia and Michael, December 24th, 2024. The caption of a joint Instagram post shared on Penix and Carter's pages read, revealing the proposal took place Tuesday on Christmas Eve. The 24-year-old Penix, the 8th overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft, popped the question in a dreamy space that featured red roses, red candles, and large letters that spelled out, "Marry me." The couple has been dating since at least November 2023, according to People. They celebrated Christmas together last year. Carter, a University of Nevada, Reno alum and former collegiate soccer player, was by Penix's side in April when the Falcons stunningly selected him in the first round of the NFL draft weeks after the team signed veteran Kirk Cousins to a 4-year, $180 million contract in free agency. When you can add a high-caliber player like that with his intangibles, those tools, he's a winner.
All right, so I'll let that play a little bit, because what we're showing is that when they say that all the brothers, they only want to marry white women, it's obviously not true. So that's a sister there. He met her while they were both in college. And so she stuck around through the quote-unquote struggles because she wasn't dumb, that she knew he had some promise. And actually, Penix he's pretty good. I've seen that game last night. That's why I picked that up when they talked about him getting engaged. But a commander got engaged that night too. And where is Dr. Umar? Because this was one for him. I wish he was around so I could hear what he has to say. You know, because I know Dr. Umar would have some fun with this one. Well, Umar, let's go ahead and share this one.
Somebody got engaged. All right. Jeremy Reeves, who played 22 special team snaps, has the most special one of all. Taking knee at the end of the game for victory. There you go. Jeremy Reeves getting engaged here after the game. Of course she said yes. You're in the playoffs now. That's right? Awesome. Somebody got engaged. All right. Jeremy Reeves, who played 22 special team snaps,
I had to show a little bit more, okay, because I don't know if he did this or not, but I got to give Dr. Umar credit. I'm giving him credit. It might not be him, but I think Snow Bunny is one of the best derogatory terms I've ever heard. I mean, it almost sounds like a compliment. So my man got himself a Snow Bunny. And, and there you go. He's happy as hell. You know, she actually looked like she was honored to be his wife. You know what I'm saying? Maybe it might last 5 or 10 years until he's finished playing. Who knows? But God bless him, right? And both of those guys. Young men get married, and I think this is true. I think that especially quarterbacks, and a lot of football players who actually get married in their 20s, I think they have better careers. I think their careers are better than the guys just making babies all around the place who 5 years after that are broke as hell. You know, I think there's and some men who might be single, because you could be on your purpose for a lot of things. But some guys who dedicate themselves to a family and wives and family, you could be dedicated to your children and not have a wife. But you're dedicated to a wife and family, the structure that you lead. It gives you a purpose that you don't want to easily give away. You know, you fight for that kind of stuff. So I think and I don't have all the statistics, but I can almost say if I was taking inventory, that the guys who got married earlier usually have better football careers than the ones who are just dicking around, stroking and impregnating women all around the place. Just a theory. I don't have any statistical proof because I haven't looked it up, but I have a feeling I'm right. Anyway, so that's that. So my man got himself a Snow Bunny, and good for him. All right, so what else do we have here? Why? Okay, what else do I have going on? All right, so I just wanted to ask that. I wanted to show some people are still getting married. I do have a couple of questions, and for that, again, I don't want to get into a lot of conversations about, well, marriage is no good, this and that, and all that other kind of stuff. But I still actually gonna drop the link because I have a couple of questions. And nobody has to come up for this, but I do. One question that I have is, why do you think it's so difficult for people to be intentional while seeking marriage? When they meet a woman, all that kind of stuff. Why, so that's one question. Why do you think it's so difficult to just say, hey, listen, I know we just getting together, we're sitting down, but my intention for you, or for not for you, but for dating going into courtship is finding a wife. You know, what do you think about that? What's your intention? You know, that kind of stuff. Instead of waiting weeks, months, this and that. Now, if you just want to smash, you don't ask that question. But if you want to have something meaningful, I don't think people act intentionally enough because they're afraid they might just turn somebody off. And if you turn somebody off by just asking that question, they're doing you a favor. You know, so that's one. And the other one is, do you think the damage that older women, the damage by older women telling younger women that they need to be whores in their 20s helps? Does it help anything? Like maybe the question is, how many dicks does a woman have to know to understand that it ain't good for them, right, in the long run? And when it comes time for them to bond, right? So, and all I hear from older women is and older, single, decrepit ass women at that, who think they own the world. I never hear them really telling the young women anything other than go get screwed, right? Like they did. You know what I'm saying? And then you end up talking about, like, you know, maybe like Dr. Bryant trying to be like the dick master of all the men while you're 42 years old, childless, and talking a lot of shit. So, but then for men, right? Do you think men advising other men to go sow their wild oats, and does that dovetail well with telling them to be on their grind, right? Because if you tell a young man to go sow his wild oats, is he really on his grind? Because we know when we're younger, we spend a lot of our emotional energy trying to get laid, right? So, but we also know to tell a guy not to try to get laid and just go work at something it sounds good, but it's almost a saying, you know, just be abstinent, right? And most guys going to want to have some kind of side piece. So what's the best way to tell these guys? You know, wouldn't having a wife in a covenant marriage enhance both the man and a woman's ambitions if they could work together for a goal? I'm just asking, right? If they're together, isn't it easier for the woman to get her PhD if she doesn't have to do it all by herself? Is it easier for a man to set his roots and become that chief engineer or become that entrepreneur or do whatever he wants, that chief tradesman, when he knows his home is covered, as opposed to him trying to do it all himself with somebody he could trust? I mean, so I'm just saying, you know, I mean, the advice we give young people, I think it's effed up. You know, I know I'm guilty of it, but I think it's the guilt is still going, right? Because we all know that the system is broken and that the advice that young people are getting is broken. Now, again, marriage is not for everybody, so everybody's not going to heed that. But young marriage is always seen to be, there's something magical about young marriages because it's an opportunity for people to grow old together and to learn the challenges of life with somebody in their back pocket. So I don't know. That's just me just thinking out loud. So those are questions. Yeah, trust. You got to learn how to trust somebody. Anyway, so the point really is, so getting into the next segment of where I want to. So there's some people who call themselves experts, right? Some experts they got their lists of what people and how people should put their minds in the right frame to be intentionally courting each other. Right now, some things I agree with, some things I don't. So the first list of 5 comes from this woman, and she's going to give you her bona fides up front. So we're gonna let her do that, and let her go through that. It's a real short clip. It's only like maybe 2-3 minutes long. And she goes to her 5 steps. Now, there's a couple of those steps I would question, but you know what? It's somebody who thinks they're an expert. So let's let the experts expert. And maybe there's a nugget or two that's anybody out there who wants to get married. It might help you. You know, I did drop the link. So I just want to let y'all know that. It's under BMU. All right. One. All right.
I'm an award-winning relationship and life coach for women. I've worked with thousands of women all around the world in helping them to create healthy relationships. I've been hired by colleges, universities, organizations, and institutions to teach their students, their executive staff members, and their teachers how to create healthy relationships as well. And I'm also a happily married wife who has been married to her husband for 12 years. I want to share some of the fundamental things that you should do as a single woman to position yourself for love and marriage. So the first thing that you need to do as a single woman who wants to be married is to allow yourself to be honest about that desire. Don't let anyone shame you because you want a man. Don't let anyone shame you because you want to be a wife. Don't allow anyone else's opinion of marriage to seep into your heart and stop you from acknowledging and admitting that marriage and love is what you want. This first step is so crucial. Do not skip it. Do not minimize it. It clears the path for you to begin to attract the type of men who also want love and marriage. Okay, so acknowledge it and admit it to yourself and say it out loud to others as well, no matter what they think about it. The second thing that you must do is to begin to get more comfortable with your femininity. Learn how to reconnect to your femininity, get grounded in your femininity so that you can feel safe to be soft, which will allow you to be open when that masculine energy comes into your life. The third thing you need to do is to stop wasting time with men who are not commitment and marriage minded. If you want marriage and he doesn't, why are you spending time with him? Why are you wasting your time with him? All that's doing is blocking the space for the right man to be able to acknowledge you, see you, and come in. So say no to the men who don't want what you want and allow them to move on so that you can clear that path. The fourth and one of the most important things is to become a better partner to yourself. Begin to speak to yourself, think about yourself, treat yourself with love, with care, with honor and respect, because your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have. And it sets the precedent for all of the other relationships that you will develop in your life. And then my fifth tip is to heal your emotional trauma. Clear out all of the emotional clutter and the emotional residue from your past traumatic experiences. Get professional help to address any childhood issues that are still lingering, and give yourself the gift of personal healing. It changes your perspective on life. It allows you to see things and people more clearly and stop looking at everything through a negative trauma lens. If you need more help with this, or you're ready to create your healthy relationship, tap my name right here so that you can book a complimentary call with me at the link in my bio.
So that's good for her, right? So, the trauma is the trauma that we're always talking about. So I say that for most women, the trauma that they have when they're in their 30s can always be traced back to the tip of a man's Johnson. That's what always. I'm not talking about, being essayed or anything like that, but by being passed around, every time you listen to these ladies talk, their trauma always leads back to somebody's Johnson. That's why you're not supposed to have so much. There's another reason why. You just keep taking for granted that you guys are receivers, and receivers, you don't just receive the pleasure, you receive the energy, and that shit stays with you. And if it's negative, so does all that negativity. So that's just something to think about, something I train my daughters to know and understand. And it's just the way it is. And you're not men. That's not men. Anyway, and she said another thing, and I didn't write that down, but, so you just got to be healed some way, shape, form, or fashion. So that's her 5. So ladies, you can get a nugget out of that. Men, if you can get some nuggets out of that when you're having a conversation with a woman who wants to get married, it's fair to ask her about her past trauma. You don't have to say, well, how many dicks did you receive? No. You can say, well, how much trauma are you coming with me at? How bad is it? Let me know. And so you say, well, you know what? I'm not like that. So that's cool too. So, so we'll just move on from there. So then the next clip, and I want to get to the main one. What is the CEO of the network tonight? What are you talking about? Anyway, Jesus Christ. Who's the CEO of that network? Can you guys hear me? I think the guys can hear me, so I don't know what that means, my man.
Hey, you hear me? Listen, you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
You speak to me tonight? You ain't gonna speak to me tonight?
No, I didn't. No, I just heard you. No, what? I didn't hear you. I swear, I didn't hear. This is the first time I heard you.
Oh, okay, man. Hey, brother, you doing a good show tonight, man. It's a great show, bro.
I appreciate that. Nah, yeah, I wasn't ignoring you. I swear. I just
No. I was just fucking with you.
yeah, man. I just yeah. So maybe you were talking to the mute button too long or something, man. All right, man. So,
Hey, man, have a good show, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
All right.
Yeah, man. Everybody, make sure you hit that like button, man. Send a cash app or something to BMU Network, man, and keep this thing rolling, man. That's what we just need to do, man. This is just cool. See if we could build something over here. So anyway, what's next on the docket? I do have a clip from the guy. His name is Alan Parr, and he talks about his differences between dating and courting. And it's a little bit longer clip, but it's not that long. And then he talks about he's going to have his wife up there, is on a separate clip, and they're going to actually talk about how they got together and they went into a courting relationship right away, and some of the challenges they had to face and some of the boundaries that they had to set up. And I have some anecdotal stuff that they talk about that is very familiar to me. So before we get to that, well, let's hit this particular clip, and let Alan also give you guys some nuggets on what he thinks is the difference between courtship and marriage. If I could find this clip.
Dating and courtship. That's coming up next on The Beat. Hey everyone, my name is Alan Parr. Thank you all so much for tuning into The Beat. Recently, somebody asked me the question, what is the big difference between dating and courting? So let me just say from the beginning that these are my personal views on this subject, which is the reason why I'm not going to put any scripture in this video, because I don't want to force my views into the biblical text where God has not spoken. And so my goal in this video is that if you are currently in a relationship with somebody, that you will assess whether you are dating according to the world's way or courting God's way. Difference number one is that dating is more recreational, whereas courtship is intentional. And what I mean here is that generally speaking, in courtship, both people enter into the relationship with a sense of readiness and a desire for marriage. They may not know that they want to marry you, but both people are coming into the relationship on the same page. Whereas in dating, one or both of the people may have no desire or readiness for marriage, but they just want to have somebody to kick it with, somebody to be conveniently involved with, somebody to be physical involved with, or just somebody to cure their loneliness. So oftentimes in dating, the focus is more so on what I can get out of the relationship, how I can have more fun, more free meals, more free vacations, more convenience, more and better sex. Whereas whenever we are courting God's way, we are strongly considering how our actions may affect someone else, and we want to protect that person's heart, so much so that if the relationship does not work out for some reason, you are not damaging them for their next relationship. Difference number two is that in dating, there can be at times a lot of confusion, whereas in courtship, there's always clarity. And what I simply mean here is that in courtship, it is very clear to both people where the relationship is going, what the status of the relationship is, whether you're a couple, whether you're not, whether you're exclusive or you're seeing other people. You don't have to wonder, well, what did it mean whenever you kissed me? What did it mean whenever you're taking me home to visit your family? All of these things are things that are clear because both people have made their intentions known, and you're having regular conversations about where this relationship is going. Whereas in dating, because at times there can be no definition and no true commitment, it can oftentimes lead to confusion. Difference number three, dating rarely involves accountability, whereas courtship is generally done within a community. Oftentimes, not all the time, but in a typical dating relationship, there can be secrecy at times because one or both of the people in the relationship are really not sure where the relationship is going or whether it's going to work out or not. And so they have no desire to really be public in front of other people. But in courtship, because both people are on a similar path to marriage, there is no secrecy, there is no hiding, because it is generally done within a community of people who are committed to holding you accountable in your relationship. Difference number four is that dating often follows practices in the world, whereas courtship follows principles in the word.
Okay, let me stop it for a second, because, okay, Trey. All right. Okay. just if you don't have to come up, but maybe just write a little dissertation in the chat or why this guy's a clown or just has an opinion. I think it sounds okay to me for people who are intentional for marriage, but I'd be interested in hearing or at least seeing, what you say about that one. Unless you're just trolling. Okay.
See, the world will tell you, well, you know what? You need to try it before you buy it because you need to know what you're getting into sexually. Or, you know what? It's okay to live together before marriage. It's okay to take romantic vacations together and put yourself in tempting, compromising situations. In courtship, the couple says, you know what? Because we see a genuine, authentic future in this relationship, we don't want to do anything that could possibly jeopardize the success of this relationship. So we are going to put healthy boundaries up. Whereas in dating, oftentimes you may not know where the relationship is going. And as a result, putting these boundaries up is less valued. And finally, difference number 5 is that in courtship, breakups can be disappointing, whereas in dating, oftentimes breakups can be devastating. So whenever there's no real commitment and the couple is not having regular conversations about where this relationship is going and what direction you want it to go, and to add this in there, if you are becoming physical and sexually involved with this person, oftentimes whenever you break up with this person, it can lead to devastation because it leads to trust issues. It leads to baggage that you take into your next relationship because of the pain from the previous relationship. But whenever you are courting somebody and you are upfront and honest with them and you're letting your intentions be made known and you guys are having regular conversations about where this relationship is going, even if the relationship doesn't work out, you can still move on, even though it may be disappointing, and you can still respect the other person because you don't feel violated and used. And so I hope in this video that if you're dating somebody currently, that you would take a genuine assessment of your relationship and ask yourself the honest question, are we dating or courting in God's way, or are we dating according to the world?
All right. So listen, you know what? A couple of things he said, like this one. How does community? I had a question on that one too. But of course, in a 5-minute spiel, I would have asked him, what do you mean? How is the community? The only thing I could think is that he's talking about his church community invested in your relationship, your courtship, one way or the other, whoever you counsel with and that kind of stuff. But I would have asked him that kind of question. But that's not, I don't think that's sufficient enough to call him a clown. I think the other thing is that the difference between breakups in relationships and breakup with an intentional courtship for marriage. At first, I say, well, why would the relationship, since most of the relationships are just based in sand, be so devastated? Well, we have receipts all over the place, right? People get in these relationships and stay in them for years and years and stuff like that. And then you have some misplaced trust in the man or the woman. And then 5 years go by, 10 years go by, and you have nothing to show for it. Maybe a baby or two. And then that opens up a whole different kind of can of worms. That could be devastating, especially for women. Devastating for men through child support and not being able to see your kid every night if you don't have full custody. Those kind of things are devastating. Well, it can happen in a marriage, but if you're just courting, most likely you're not getting her pregnant. You're working towards a marriage and all that kind of stuff. And if you find out in that courtship that, we're just really not that compatible, even though we had this intention, I could see that being a little less devastating than the random situational ships that's destroying everybody's psyche. There could be more conversation on that, but I can see where he's coming from. We don't necessarily have to agree, but I do kind of see where he might be coming from with that. All right, so what else? Okay, so we're getting to the nitty-gritty. I think that the last piece of this is when he's sitting down with his wife and they're having a conversation. And I think the conversation between the two of them is informative for people who are intentional from just meeting to courting to actually getting married and having a family and all that kind of stuff. So I think that one is pretty good. I think this is the coup de grace, right? Because there's several clips I took out of this because we're going to start and stop. And it's like, it's like 20 minutes long, but we're going to go through like 3-4 minute increments to go through it. And maybe when I stop it, we could have some conversation on that. And, Trey, I don't have to ask Trey. If you're still here for this, Trey, I'm sure you're going to have something to say. So that's cool. And, the conversation with you and Mr. Milani and all that kind of stuff. And anybody else is cool, too, in the chat. So I appreciate you guys being in the chat at the very least, saying your opinions. And so that's cool. All right. So here's this clip number 7. And we're going to, where I got to find it. There it is. All right. All right, so we're going to take it from, I didn't want to take it from the top. I wanted to take it from a certain part. There's 2. I want to take it from somewhere like here. Now, let me see I want to take it from the right spot. So I'm not starting too far in, too far out. There you go.
But we started dating and getting to know one another. And I would say about 6 weeks to about 2 months into our dating experience, or our journey rather, my wife hit me with this bombshell and nearly broke my heart. And I'll let her share a little bit about that. And I'm going to come back and talk about like some major important lesson that you can learn from that. But I'll let you share kind of how you broke my heart 2 months into our dating experience.
Heartbreaker. That's interesting because I typically was the one that always got my heart broke. So to be labeled as a heartbreaker feels a little intense. But I would say at that season of my life, I knew
she's a cutie pie, chocolate chip. What
I wanted. And if that was not you, I was okay with that. Prior to meeting Alan, I had been through relationships that ended up in heartbreak. And I wanted to be a lot more intentional about my selection or being pursued by a man. And so the big heartbreak that he's talking about is we had spent just a couple months maybe getting to know each other. But what he didn't know is that prior to meeting him, I literally told God, like audibly in a prayer, maybe it was in the shower, I don't remember, but it was like, God, do not send me anybody in Texas. I am done with Texas. I'm moving away and I'm moving to the East Coast to pursue my career. So you could call it chasing a career, which we'll talk a little bit about that, ladies. But I would like to say I was focused. I was focused not on meeting a man, but I was really focused on just where I felt God was taking me and focused on my career.
Yeah.
But that broke his heart.
Yeah, because in my mind, I literally met the woman of my dreams. I mean, here I am, almost 40 years old. I had dated, several different women before her and finally got to the point where I was like, in my mind, this is it. She's the one. Like, I'm ready to do this. And everything is so convenient. It's perfect. We're both in Dallas, both at the same church. We're like 20 minutes away. Everything is perfect. And here she goes, messing stuff up, talking about I want to move to DC to pursue some career in journalism, right? And so I'm just upset about that because I will never forget the day on Facebook. I remember she changed her status, moved to DC, and all her friends were chiming in. Oh, go girl, get yours, go after your career. We're so proud of you. Way to step out on faith. And I'm like, man, so here's really the first major lesson and tip that I really want to encourage you guys to think about, because we were faced with a decision at this point. Are we going to just call it quits and be like, you know what, this isn't working because I don't like long distance and I've had long distance relationships in the past and it didn't work out. I know you had 1 or 2 long distance relationships in the past and it wasn't really ideal for you. And so we had a decision to make. Are we just going to call it quits and go our own ways and hope that God may bring us back together again? Or are we going to put in the work? So
let me just stop there. All right. So listen. He's going to get into some of his first stuff, right? So the point really is that most people, when they're faced with a long distance, Texas to the DMV area, that's where she moved, I believe, it would be over, because whatever the commitment they thought they had just in a real, hookup relationship, it might last for a trip or two. But the first thing you're thinking and she's thinking is that as soon as you can, you're going to be popping out another chick. She's going to be busting down another dude. And so there's no real commitment or no real cheating there, right? You really haven't said anything intentional other than with boyfriend and girlfriend. I'll miss you. You miss me. And then I think you fade off into the sunset. And if you have some kind of understanding that regardless of the distance, you guys are working towards something, because the distance can, the world is short these days, right? You don't have to be apart forever. It doesn't have to be a forever thing. Maybe there's something to keep you glued together and you can still build. So let him go through his first steps and all that kind of stuff.
My first lesson for y'all is be careful about making a permanent decision based on a temporary reality or temporary situation, right? If I would have said, you know what, man, this is going to be too hard to do this long distance dating thing, forget it. I would have missed out on the biggest blessing of my life, to be married to my wife. But if you realize that, okay, this is just a short season that we'll probably look back on and be thinking, oh, that was so short compared to a lifetime of love. Make sure that you're not basing your decisions on some sort of temporary situation, specifically for those who might be in the long distance situation.
Absolutely. And that speaks to intentionality, right? The reason that we have long dating periods is because intentions are not clear. Intentions are not made early enough. Ladies, there's a statistic out there, and I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure it's men typically know if you are marriage material or if you are someone that they could see themselves being married to by 6 months. So if you're in a relationship where you've been together for 5 years, 4 years, 10 years, ladies, the longer you stay in that is not going to convince him, because he probably already knows or has an idea if you are someone that he wants to marry. And so let's cut all that long dating. We had to be very intentional that if we were going to see if this was going to work, then let's set some boundaries. Let's be intentional and let's make a decision today. I think that's called like DTR, determine the relationship, something like that. Determine the relationship. We don't need long datings to decide if someone is for you, which now leads us to how we were intentional in our dating.
Yeah. So guys, this is going to be really the second tip. And I'm speaking specifically to the brothers and to the men. And that is to make sure that you are intentional and clear about your pursuit with this woman, right? Be clear about your intentions. This whole idea of we're going to hang out for a while, we're going to see how it goes, or hey, I'm not really ready to commit to you. I'm not sure where this is going. I want you to see other people. I want to see other people. We're just kind of friends with benefits or whatever it is. Guys, Christian guys, we got to stop all that, right? You probably have dated enough people at this point to know what you are looking for. So as a Christian man, it is our responsibility to protect and guard a woman's heart, because most Christian women are looking for marriage and not just to be hanging out and having a good time. So we need to make sure as men that we're coming to the table and we are clear. I made my intentions known within the first 3 or 4 dates. I didn't say I want to marry you, but I said the reason why we are sitting here on this bench in Plano, right, at Shops of Legacy, is because I am trying to get to know you for the purpose of seeing if you are my wife. And I'm in ministry, and I'm not only looking for a wife, I'm also looking for a ministry partner.
Yes.
I was very clear about that. So talk a little bit about how that made you feel, me being intentional about things early on.
Goodness. Okay. So we're sitting on a date, and a lot of our dates were public. They were at parks. They were at restaurants. We didn't do the Netflix and chill thing. And I remember you saying, hey, I just want to let you know, I am interested in looking for a wife. And I remember like looking back, like, you talking to me? Like, you know, I just thought we were getting to know each other. I just thought we're dating. But I didn't realize how I was so comfortable in this long periods of getting to know each other without someone making their intentions clear. And for us,
Let me stop it right there. I wanted to stop it there because they said a lot. The one about her and taking a long time for women. And I know some guys don't agree with this, but this is me. I believe that men can absolutely burn a lot of prime years from a woman because if you're banging it out nice and you're treating her like a wife, but you ain't giving her the name, she'll stay with you. If you're okay, if you treat her all right, she'll stay with you. Burn up all of her time for somebody who might want to marry her, just with you. And then if you find somebody who's better suited for you, you'll split. Because I do agree that if you want to marry a woman and it doesn't take years and years. Now, that's not for every man, but if you're intentional about it, it's not going to take you 5-10 years to figure out whether this woman is yours. She's got to be the best chameleon in the whole world. It's going to take you that long to figure her ass out. But she also said, my man also said something that is debatable, not meaning that he's not telling the truth, but it's debatable, and we could probably make a whole show about it. But it's about a woman and her agency over her sexual box. He said it's up to the man to make sure she keeps her virtue intact. Kind of, I'm paraphrasing. I think that's what he means. And when a man says that, he's essentially saying that women have no control, really, over the guy that they like taking their virtue away. And I would like to say they should be absolutely responsible and have agency over their box. But the way things are in truth, it's like women are like children when it comes to that, because the right guy can make them do almost anything. That's why I think some of the laws are written the way they are. It's like incredible. I think it's worth, I'm not going to get into it here, but it's like if we don't guard a woman's virtue, they'll just let that shit all hang out. And that's what we're seeing right now, because men will play in the sandbox. We're going to play in the sandbox. But what if we didn't play in the sandbox? Would we be able to make them be a little bit more virtuous? Maybe, but there's always a guy who's going to bang their ass out if they, because they're always vulnerable. In the courtroom, they're vulnerable. If me and a woman gets drunk, I'm drunk as a skunk, but she decides that, I couldn't, I get in trouble even though we had an equal amount. I have more alcohol than her. But the fact you can get it up means that you were responsible and she was too drunk to choose. That's the same kind of shit that he's talking about, that we have to guard a woman's virtue. We got to talk about that a little bit more. That's like a whole goddamn show. But I'm not so sure I like that, but it just might be true. That somehow women just have no agency over the fact that they're dumb giving the box up to any man. Because they're doing it. And then they're traumatized for life over it. It's just crazy. Anyway, so that's just a thought of what he said. But let's continue. What else did he say? Oh, yeah. About wasting time. I had a friend of mine. She went to school with me. And, well, we were freshmen together. And we still stay in contact. She knows my wife and all that kind of stuff. She was in this long-time relationship with this dude who was in the service. So we finally got out. It was like 7-8 years. So they started living together. She's like 35. Turns out he had a whole nother family across town. And that she found out, broke her heart. She actually had to go. She wanted babies. She wanted a family. She comes from that kind of situation. So she actually had to go to a sperm bank. She didn't want to go through any more relationships with guys or anything. She went to, and she had twins. So, yeah, a man will waste your time. Men's time goes too, but we have more time to frolic than women do, and we all know that. That's biology. So, anyhow, there was some good stuff that was said on this thing. So let them continue to talk.
Second, I had to think, I prayed for this. I prayed for a godly husband. I prayed for someone that had clear intentions. And he's literally right in front of me and I'm scared. I'm nervous. So I appreciated you making your intentions clear, or at least making me understand what you were looking for, because that immediately showed me what your character was like. Which leads me to the next point, is that when you are dating, ladies, I know there's so many things you can be focused on and even distracted by, whether it's their swag, you want a swaggy boy or a man, whether it's how much money they make, whether it's they can dance or they can't dance.
I can't dance that well.
But we all have our list. We all have our list of things that we think either we deserve or worthy of, or would make the best man. And for me, it used to be chemistry. I needed to be able to vibe with you, jive with you. For marriage, chemistry is not important. I was looking for character over chemistry. So that is the third point that I would say to focus on, is focus and really review someone's character. Not how much you vibe, because it's the honeymoon stage. You're going to vibe. You're going to connect. But are they a man or a woman of their word? Do they deliver on what they say they're going to do? Are they honest? Do they guard your heart? Like Alan talked about, all those things really define a godly character in someone. And so that was one thing that allowed you to stand out, was your character, and you're making your intentions clear, took you all the way to the top.
Okay, cool. Now, let me give you an example, a practical example of how this kind of played out. So as you know, at this point in our relationship, we are long distance dating. We were like, you know what? There's something here. I feel something special. I sense something different. So we're going to give this a shot. So we were very intentional about this. Every single month I went to DC, and every single month she came to Dallas. Now let's talk about the sleeping arrangements. All right. Because this is an example. You can't say you're a man of God. You can't say all these things, and then you're like, hey, I'm going to stay with you. Right. I'm going to stay over the night with you. Or when I come to, hey, it's a whole lot of money. Guys, look, I was a high school math teacher, wasn't making a lot of money. So I could have easily saved $500 every month going to DC by just saying, I'll stay with you. But no, I knew that if we made plans to sin, like, oh, I'm planning to spend the night with you, like we ain't even trying to do it right. Right. I knew we would have fallen.
Absolutely.
So what we had to do is I had to say, you know what, when I come to DC, no matter how much it costs, I'm going to get a hotel so that at the end of our date, you go back to your apartment, I go back to my hotel, and we have some boundaries set up in our relationship. When she came to Dallas, she was staying with her parents because that's where she grew up, in their parents' house, and I stayed in my house. Boundaries. And another thing, because she was staying with her parents and I wanted to earn the respect of her father, I knew I couldn't bring her back at 3 or 4 or 5, 6 in the morning.
No, my dad was not having that.
Right. Her dad is some tall, like Nigerian dude, like looked like a chief of a tribe or something like that. Right. I'm not about to get on his bad side at all. So I had to get her back at a reasonable hour. And it was tough because I lived 45 minutes away from her house. So here it is, 1 o'clock. We hanging out in the morning, which was rare, but sometimes like 1 o'clock.
The movie went late.
We watch a movie or something like that. And it's like, oh man, it would be so nice for her to spend the night. No, I had to get my butt up off the couch, drive her to Carrollton, 45 minutes, drive back. It was guys, but this is what character is all about. And this is all.
All right. So we're going to hit this next thing, but let me stop you right there. Listen, I don't believe that he went through their whole courtship without tapping that. Okay. Listen, he could say anything he wants, and they might have been respectful. They might have waited a certain amount of time. She may not have stayed over or slept over, but I do not believe that he didn't tap it at least one, I mean, anybody else think that he tapped it? I mean, there's just no way he didn't tap that. It's just no way. She's had lovers before and all that kind of stuff. Man, there's no way you didn't tap it, but you can still you can still have a woman and be respectful and tap that ass, right? Just don't do it in her father's house. Just don't keep her out all night long. You're already committed, but I don't believe 1 second that he didn't taste the fruits that she had to bear. Shit, man. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, Ekene? Here's another thing, though. I do know that when I was engaged to my wife, we were engaged. And one night, I kept her out all night. We were hanging out all night long because that back then they had some parties that would last in hotels that would last, to the morning. So because every other night she never stayed over my house all night long ever. I always brought her home at a reasonable hour. So this night we stayed out all night, and I put my hand on the Bible. I didn't even get none that night. I didn't even get any. We were just hanging out. So I walk in her house. It's like 6 a.m. Her mother and father were sitting on the couch waiting for her. They were up, bright eyed. It reminded me of that old picture with the two old people with the pitchforks. They were waiting right there. And so we come in, and so they commenced to tear me a new one, right? And so I turn around looking for my wife, because she ain't gonna say nothing. She was gone. She went into another room and just put me in the well of the Senate, and they just tore me a new one. And I'm apologizing and said, we just hanging out, blah, blah, blah. It never happened again. It never happened again. But it was so funny because when he said that about her father, it was true. I mean, that night we were just hanging out. It was like innocent as hell, but they were up waiting, and so the respect had to be there. So that's one of the things. So I thought that was something I could relate to when I was courting my wife. Well, okay, so what else does he have to say?
All about setting up boundaries as well. So let's talk a little about boundaries.
And I know my dad observed that about you. He observed that you brought me back at a good time. As you know, the transfer, when you're thinking about marriage, when you're single, you should be under a covering. And whatever that or whoever that covering is, when you get married, it's a transfer of that covering. And so my dad was probably looking at you saying, wow, this is a man that I would feel comfortable my daughter marrying because you are protecting and respecting the time that she needs to be home. And, quite frankly, it was the best thing for us,
I had the same conversation with my daughters about covering more than once about what that really means until they actually got it and they understand that. So, and they still look towards me for that covering until they find somebody else. It's me still.
Setting boundaries, but ladies, there's absolutely no reason for you to give wifey qualities to a boyfriend. So if we didn't have any type of business, him spending the night, we didn't need to be getting an apartment together and sharing bills, which are things you do in marriage. We didn't need to do all those things.
Just put yourself in temptation.
Just putting yourself in temptation for something that you don't even know is going to work. And not only is it probably not going to work, but there's a statistic that says, I think 80%, maybe 60% of couples who live together do not make it to the altar.
Right.
So why
give a higher divorce rate as well?
Why give marriage wifey qualities to a boyfriend? So those boundaries were very, very helpful. And us being intentional about that, I think just really helped develop a solid friendship. Yeah.
And I was going to say, speaking of those boundaries, the reason why we were able to set boundaries that we agreed on is because of this next thing, which is the importance of being equally yoked. Man, I cannot tell you how many times people come to me and they ask me questions like, hey, should I continue dating this person? Like, they're a Mormon, but I'm a Christian, right? Or, this person is, an unbeliever, but they're really, really good person. They come from a really good family, got a really, really good job, but I'm a Christian. Guys, listen, being unequally yoked is first and foremost a sin because the Bible says we should not be equally yoked together with unbelievers. Second thing is going to cause you to have a struggle, right? In your marriage, you're going to want to send the kids to Christian school. They're going to be like, no. You're going to want to give a certain percentage of money to your church. They might be like, no, why do we do that?
Who are you going to pray to at dinner time?
I mean, there's so many things. It's going to be, you're going to want to do that. So then that leads me to the third one. It's going to be, it's a sin. It's a struggle. It's also going to affect your sanctification. Because most of the time when you get with somebody who you're not equally yoked with, they bring you down rather than you bringing them up. And let me just say this, when you are dating, it's so important to be equally yoked, because when you are very attracted to one another and the fire is there, and by the way, you need to have that fire. That's a whole nother lesson.
That's one point.
That's a whole nother point. Don't just marry somebody because they are cool and they're a good Christian person. No, you got to sleep with this person every night when you get married. So make sure you're attracted person. Huh?
Every night?
Every night. Every night. I mean, you got to get into bed with them. I'm just saying, you got to at least get into bed with them. But the point is, guys, it's so difficult when you're the only one in a relationship that has the value of sexual purity, because you're now saying, okay, I have to be the strong one all the time. But the moment that you have a weak moment, that other person, because they don't have the same conviction, they're going to slide on in and take advantage of you at your most vulnerable, weakest moments. But if the both of you are committed to sexual purity and you're equally yoked, when one person has a weak moment, you can count on the other person. But you know what? Oh, I want to, but you know what? Let's kind of put things on pause here. So,
and it's not a bad thing if they're attracted to you. I mean, if you're dating someone and you both have made a commitment to honor God with your relationship, then, and something happens and you slip up, like, they're not going to hell. Like, you want to have natural desires. You just want to set healthy boundaries so that you can still honor God with your relationship.
Yeah. And so
all right, so let me stop it right there. I believe that's true, but I think she just kind of let it out, confirm the fact that they slipped up once or twice. They had to stop it. Just stop it. You got some of those buns before y'all got married. But one of the things she said about equally yoked in terms of religion. Now, I was born a Catholic, and I say born a Catholic because when you're a Catholic, you get baptized when you don't have no choice. Like, you don't even know what the hell's going on. Right, so they just bring you up and they throw some water on you, and you're baptized. So I went to Catholic school all the way to the 12th. But when I met my wife, she's a Southerner, so they're all Baptists, right? They're Baptists, and so we get married in the Baptist church, and of course, somewhere around 5 years in, that's the church that we were going to, the Baptist church. So I said, I don't. This is okay, all you Baptists and all that. To me, I believe it's the same God, okay? So I converted to Baptist, right? So I went through the whole baptism ceremony and all that kind of stuff. So our family would just be Christian Baptist, and that's it, right? So me, it was no skin off my back. I didn't have no allegiance, especially to the Pope or anything like that. Because I don't believe in that kind of hierarchy stuff. Anyway, so that is... so that was fine with me. So I did that. So whether it made a difference in our marriage or not, I don't know. It just made it easier for me to say, hey, listen, we're reading from the same scripture, right? Anyway, so that's that. So and this is almost to the end. And so this last piece, we're going to just let it play out. You got a couple, I think one more thing is very important. And this one is an important one, this last one. And I think almost everybody should agree with.
Last thing that we'll talk about, guys, in this video, because like I said, we got two more coming, is friendship. Guys, listen, when I look back in our relationship, the best thing that could have ever happened was God arranging the events for her to go to DC and me to stay back here, because it forced us to talk on the phone and get to know each other and have intentional conversations, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the next video. But instead of us being up in the bed all the time, just kind of hanging out and watching Netflix and cuddled up on the couch for 6 hours every date, we were talking, getting to know each other, having fellowship and getting to know each other, establishing a friendship with one another. One night, tell them how long we talked one night.
Yes. So remember, I'm in DC. He is in Dallas. And we started our conversation, I want to say like at 8 o'clock. Yeah. And by the time, I'm surprised my phone didn't die. By the time we got off the phone, it was 3 o'clock. 7 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, 7 hours. Yeah. So when you're not sleeping with each other, you really get an opportunity to learn about each other, develop a solid friendship. Because the reality is, guys, I don't just love this man, but I like him. And marriage, you're not always going to feel madly in love with your spouse. that may be the majority of the time you don't feel like you're madly in love. But do you like the person? I like him. I like to hang out with him. We like each other so much. We also give each other space. I know what he likes. He likes to go out and play golf. I like to sometimes just, chill with my girls, play tennis. But we not only love each other, we like each other. And that friendship is so important to establish on the dating side, on the front end of marriage.
Awesome, guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Went a little longer than we wanted to, but that's okay. So the next video, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how do you know if this person is the one, right? Because we're going to pick up our story from the engagement all the way up to when we got married and we got some.
All right, so I'm gonna stop it there. But anybody can go. This is the pars. So if you wanted to go see, talk about, see a little bit more about them, you got there. I don't know if BMU put their link in the description, but it's in there. Hey, what's going on, boss man? Hey, man, how you doing, man? I'd be curious about why God doesn't care about the covenant, right? But the sex before marriage, I don't know that too. That might be a discussion for some other thing. I think there's some scripture in there, I believe, about some of that. I think it's fornication, right? Anyway, that's that. But hey, listen, I think that if it was a mortal sin, I mean, I ain't nobody going to heaven except that virgin I talked about in the beginning. And maybe a couple of others. But other than that, so that was that. So I like I said, I had dropped the link, but I just think that the chat, I appreciate you guys going back and forth because there's a lot of conversation in there. Marriage, again, it's not for everybody, but I think we could shorten the time it takes to find out whether somebody is a marriageable person for you by asking the right questions early on. Because if a person doesn't want to get married and you do, why the hell are you even spending any time, energy, or money on that person? And that goes both ways. That's not just for the man, that's for the woman too, right? Because I think that's where the complication begins, right? Where you guys don't have any intentionality about anything other than the fact that y'all want to bang each other out. Now, that's okay as long as you're honest about that, right? So if you're just looking to hook up and bang each other up, just be honest about that as well. Can that grow into something more meaningful? Yeah, absolutely, it can. But is that the basis of a long-term relationship? I know the last thing you talked about is friendship. I mean, me and my wife are pretty good friends. She actually likes being around me. And then when she can't stand me, she finds the furthest part of the house to be in, where she don't have to see me. But she has her little things that she does. I have the things I do. So we give each other as much space as we can, but we enjoy being together. And that was the way we were before we had kids, when we had children, and afterwards. So now that our kids are grown, we don't look at each other as strangers. We always plan to do stuff together. We don't announce it all the time. It doesn't have to be really expensive, but we get out of the environment and do other things, which is cool, and she laughs at my stupid jokes all the time. So as long as that's still there, then there's hope for me until the end. Anyway, but with that, if there's nobody want to come up, that's good. I appreciate everybody in the chat with some good conversation that was going on in there. Look, for marriageable people are still, listen, no matter how bad the pee is in the pool at every level, people are still getting married. And, over the objections of people who say they shouldn't, over the fact that, they say women of today aren't marriageable, over a lot of stuff. Hey, Ekene, yeah, man, what's happening? Bring you up. What's going on, man?
What's popping?
All right, man. So what you got on the topic, man, since you up here?
Yeah, I was like, let me not keep Mr. Payne stuff hanging because I didn't even know you wanted people to show up.
No, I dropped the link a while ago, man. I went to your, you need to put an email address in your description because I went to your thing before the show to send you an email. You know,
Oh, okay.
so you need
Okay.
something like so people could reach you. You know, so there you go.
Let me try to send it to you.
Oh, you don't have to do it now, but you don't have to do it now. But
No, it's on the back room.
oh, okay, I got you. I got it. All right.
Not on the
I
public.
yeah, I see.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What you
The
got
thing
about
is,
marriage? You married? Go ahead, man. Talk to me. What's up?
yeah. The thing about it is that what they said is possible, but it's only possible if it's a short-term date. You see what I mean? If it's a
Okay.
date that happened in short term, it's possible that they didn't do nothing before marriage, which I think indirectly they kind of gave themselves up by saying that they actually did, but it's not. Because I
What
was
happened?
with them until she was like, nah, I don't think that was what happened. Yeah.
You know,
He was,
listen, I hear
yeah.
you. Go ahead. Go ahead.
He was trying to make it look like a saint. And she was like, no, I don't think we were all that saint, man. Seemed like you can be saying that, Pastor. But another thing is, uh in terms of equally yoke, you see, when you say equally yoke, you get people confused because I think one thing about folks that are Christians, right?
Okay.
They think if they are Christians, that marriage with non-Christians will never work. That's a
Oh, that's
lie.
not true. Oh, that's not true. I
One of the
agree.
most successful marriages, right, are with people of that are not of the same faith. Like in Nigeria, I know people that are not of the same faith at all. The
Mm-hmm.
only thing is that the kids practice both faith. You see what I'm saying? They
Mm-hmm.
practice, and they have a higher knowledge because now they know from all sides, not just bias. Because one thing about folks that speak like that is that they believe in indoctrination. So they indoctrinate, they want to stick to theirs, and they don't allow other perspective, and they fight other perspective, and then most people like that are either fanatics or zealous. You see what I'm saying?
No,
That's
no,
why they
go ahead. Go ahead. Oh.
Yeah, that's why they usually sound like that. But I got to tell, but like I said, even here in the US, I've seen a lot of people with they're not the same faith, and they've been kicking it for years, for years.
Yeah, but
Uh,
let me put it to you this way though, because you're correct. I didn't buy that, and it's good to conversate. However, let's not get to the extremes. He's saying that if you're going to get married to somebody, why have an extra potential barrier between the two of you, right? It doesn't have to be catastrophic, right? So just like some, single men don't want to have a woman with a kid, right? Even if it works out, because some of those marriages work out just fine. But why would you want to have a barrier that you don't need? So that's what so it could be the extreme that he's a zealot, of course, or it could be that if I'm gonna find a woman that we're equally yoked, it makes our melting together a little simpler because that's one less thing we gotta discuss.
yeah, it's like some people. I'm not saying that he particularly is an
No,
extreme,
but you see my point though,
but
right?
yeah, of course,
So
hundred
both
percent.
things could be true, right? The fact is there's
Of
a whole bunch of interfaith
course.
marriages that work out really well.
It's just like sometimes you see some people that like how some folks say that, oh, people from this tribe can marry people from the other tribe because they might not get along.
Right.
Yeah, I know where they're coming from, because sometimes when you get somebody from your tribe, communication becomes easy. But guess what? That doesn't mean it guarantees the relationship,
Oh, that's true. That's true.
because communication is not a problem, it's understanding. You see what I'm saying? Understanding.
Yeah.
Because many people that are not of the same tribe or happen to stick together for a very, very long time too. So certain things doesn't guarantee the outcome, a better outcome.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. So other than that, though, which is all true, What did you think about that couple? That's the first time I ever saw them. They might have.
No, no, no. I think they love each other. They really good.
Yeah,
That's based on their public utterance. I think they have something going on. But these people might be new couples, or maybe they just haven't known each other for intimately for a long time. But I think that based on what he was saying, I think they've known each other before, but not intimately for that long before they got married. And then he was just straight up, and then they got married quicker. But I think that they have great things going on.
Yeah, that's cool. So yeah, that's the way I look at it, man. It's cool. I know you had a long courtship with your thing with your wife, longer than it should have.
Longer than it should have.
Longer than you should have, and I think she's been blessed that you didn't leave, man, because you spent a lot of time, man. So she trusted you. She trusted you, but it don't happen for a lot of women, man.
It doesn't happen for a lot of women, but it comes down to character. Most women that it doesn't happen to, it wouldn't even happen for them at short dating. You see what I'm saying? Because it takes. I'm being honest with you.
I'm only laughing because my man Trey is gonna pop up, man. So
yeah. Because the thing about it is, what's up, Trey? The thing about it is a character. A man already knows the woman that he's going to marry the first. Let me just stretch it. The first 3 months, he already knows, but it's much more earlier than that. Much more earlier than that. But I'm just putting it at average. Not average, but to stretch it, 3 months, a man already knows. Sometimes they end up 5, 10 years. He's still going to marry her because he already made up his mind. He has seen everything, and he comes time. You see what I'm saying?
All right, I see what you're saying, but okay. So I mean, I would ask you then, why did it take you so long? Yeah, I think you froze, Akane. Yeah, you froze. What's going? Yeah, you're frozen, Akane. I can't hear. What's up, Trey?
Let's go.
So okay, man. What you got, man? You've been in the chat all day, man. So what's okay? Say
about which part?
Which part? Any part you want to start with, man? Okay.
I mean, there's so much there. I agree with you. I don't believe that he traveled from Texas to DC and nothing happened. That doesn't even begin to make sense. And I always find it funny. A lot of the times, these Christians, he's the one guy who can defy biology and hormones. He's the one guy who can do it. He's the one guy who can fight the temptation. Like, come on, bro. Like, okay. And I get irritated because, again, it's YouTube. So anybody can be anybody who they want to be, and they can lie. Even Christians can come on here and lie and say, oh, well, we didn't do that. And I stayed in the hotel when maybe in actuality, y'all went to the movies. And it's dark in the movies. Who knew what y'all was doing in the movies? We got to drive in a car back and forth. Who knew what y'all was doing in the car back and forth? Like, I'm from DC. People get it in on the subway and the metro all the time. There's nothing new either. Like this whole thing of like, well, we weren't doing anything. Like, come on, man. A lot of this stuff.
That's a bit
listen,
much.
I get it. People want to live in a fantasy world. They want to believe that we still are 100 years ago and this is the 1920s and that marriage is what it is. But at the end of the day, there's a lot to factor in here. There's a ton to factor in. And this idea that we're going to go back to a time where people were courting is archaic. That's not going to happen because you can, as a man, you can be intentional about getting married and have sex with someone. You can be intentional and have sex with someone. It just may not be that particular person that you get married to.
Right. Well, hold on though, Trey. Listen, I agree with what you said about you could be intentional and still have sex with a woman. That he was trying not to get non-secular, right? He said that's why he started out, but that's why I just said I don't believe he did knock that shit out, right? I mean, I could separate that out and have a courtship with somebody you're actually having sex with, because that doesn't diminish the fact that both of you guys talked about working towards marriage. right? Having sex earlier than waiting for marriage it has a good effect, and it has a different effect that you're going to lose. The first woman who came on who said she was a virgin, which you said you don't believe her, right? You said you don't believe her. However, if she found a man, right, who would wait for her and she's a virgin, I have a feeling that first night it's got to be kind of unique. And some of us, we never experienced that, but I think it has to be kind of unique to be popping out a chick her first time, your first time with her on a marriage night and shit and all that. There's some romanticism to that. It just has to be. So we miss out on that. So I don't really want to step on that too hard.
If you ask most women how was their first sexual experience, they're not going to tell you good things.
I know.
So they're going to tell you that it was painful and that it was uncomfortable.
Well,
right?
You can like ease it in there, just a tip in, and he touched it up. No, but you're right. They all give you a lot of. Most women say my first experience. Yeah, they do.
And again, that's why I talk about it being archaic. The odds of you finding the woman that is untouched, more than likely you've been waiting on a woman who was already touched and she lied to you. She didn't tell you the truth. She didn't tell you the truth.
Yeah, but why is it archaic? Because that's not archaic. I think that was true
because courting is done. Courting is done. We don't court anymore. For those people who are actually dating out here in the real world,
well, what do you mean by courting? Though courting means you're just
we don't.
But
nobody goes out with the actual intentions of specifically getting married. Yeah, here comes the not all army. Everybody,
I'm not gonna say that.
Somebody from the not all army is going to say something, but the majority of people who are dating today are not going out and looking specifically to get married. What happens is that it sort of happens organically. It sort of happens like you keep hanging out with this person, you keep kicking it. It becomes it's easier. You like it. You like being around them. Things just start to sort of progress. That's the way they date now. So this idea of courtship is archaic because it doesn't happen anymore.
But Trey, can we also say that this organic relationship thing you're talking about is where all the toxicity comes from? Right? I mean, most of those relationships don't end in marriage either. No matter how long. Let me finish. Let me just finish this. Most of those
and then continue on. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, because part of what I'm continuing is part of the question. But go ahead, man. So the point really I'm trying to say is, if you let me finish the question, but go ahead, man, and answer. Then I'll come back with the second part of my question. How about that?
Well, because we live in a fantasy world. Everything is fantastical, especially with you Christians. Like everything's fantastical. Like it's going to be like this, and it's going to be great, and it's going to be romantic, and it's going to be like, no. There are people who court, like he said people who court. It was courting versus dating. Like if it doesn't work for dating, it's devastating. So you mean to tell me that two people who make the actual effort to intentionally get together and want to get married and they don't make it, that's not devastating? He didn't use the word devastating. He used a lighter word for, I forgot. It started with a D too, but I think I forgot.
It was disappointing.
Disappointing was the word he used, right? But
I had a comment on that.
Two people who actually get together and if there's an effort and I actually want to get married and it doesn't work, that's not devastating. Like that's this fantastical mindset of, oh, it's going to be perfect. This is not The Notebook. And she's not going to come back from the guy she was supposed to marry because you built the house and going to be with you for the rest of your life. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, but Trey, you're right. I mean, Ekene, you can get in on this. But Trey, you know what? You have a penchant to go to the extremes on these things. I didn't get that extreme because I question the fact that you use devastating and disappointing too in that context. But all I know is that the receipts of this modern world that we're talking about, all of the drama and shit comes from this random fucking dating that's going on. And here's another thing about courting, okay? It has nothing to do with time. It has to do with you found somebody who wants to get married. You want to get married because most relationships don't start out with people saying, I have an intention of being married. I have an intention to be with you because I think you're handsome, you're cute, you're pretty, you got fat ass. And we vibe together, so let's get it on, right? And that could lead to marriage. There's no doubt about it, right? But that doesn't make intentional people archaic. It just makes that's not the normal way people do it anymore. But maybe we should. Maybe we should start asking early on to a woman. Well, let me just say this, and I'm gonna end. Maybe we should ask a woman in the first few days, are you, or do you want to actually get married? Oh, that's somebody.
No, the question we should be asking is,
somebody got their stuff.
What's your opinion on divorce? That's the question we should be asking.
Well, it can't be the second question. Can't that be the second question?
No, it needs, because here's the thing. The issue isn't that people aren't getting married enough, because as you said, the marriage rate is at 50%. The issue is that the people who are getting married aren't staying married. That's the issue.
Right.
And the current average length of marriage is 7 years. The current average length of marriage is 7 years. So by the time somebody enters college and gets out with their master's or doctorates, your marriage is over.
All right. So, but do we have the number of how? Those are mostly people who are in regular relationships, because that's the vast majority of people get in regular relationships. They end up getting married. They don't do proper vetting. They don't have any mentors. They just say, "I feel good. Let's just."
You can't vet. You cannot vet in the modern world.
I disagree with you there. But it can't be. You're looking for 100% certainty.
I'm a single man. Tell me how I vet these women.
No. I can't tell you how to vet. You still have a list.
Tell me how to vet them.
No, but you still have a list of things you're looking for. They just haven't satisfied.
You can't confirm any of it. This is why when I hear men say, "Oh, I knew within 3 weeks. I knew within 6 months." How? It's impossible. You don't even know her.
Listen,
we're talking about women who don't even know themselves.
Okay,
but you know her well enough to marry her?
No, Trey. Let me answer that question. Let me respond to Trey, Mr. Payne.
Go ahead.
What Trey said is not wrong, but I got to respond to that.
Okay.
The reason why some of us know, you see, when you are with a woman, right? You know a girlfriend from a wife. You know a woman you're never going to marry to a woman you're going to marry. You don't need more than 3 months to do that. You know why? I'll tell you why. I don't know what your lists are. Some of us have long lists as men. Some of us have very short lists. Some of our list is: does she cook? Can she cook? Is she from good family? We go to their family, we find out about their family. Are they crazy? What are they? You see what I'm saying? Do they have good judgment? What is the relationship between her and her father, her mother? Those are things we might end up just finding out within 3 months. You see what I'm saying? And we are satisfied with that, and we go into marriage. And then also arguments. When we argue, what is the temperament from the woman's side? What is the level of aggression? What is does this person de-escalate or escalate? You see, those are questions you ask. Okay, you yourself, what is your because you still have to also see if your lifestyle goes with this person's lifestyle. These are things that traditionally men will have. But then there are other lists. Some people will be like, "Oh, I want her to do this, do that." Some people have some sexual lists. You know what I mean? Not everybody has all those lists. Lists between men and women, lists among men vary. But at the same time, most men have very short lists. But in America here, it might be different because you know why? The society might also put pressure on you. And then because of disappointment that you have from other women that may have had the list that you have, but then they're not really doing the action, but they speak it with their mouth, but they're not actually about it. You see what I'm saying? Because I've seen women here that can talk the talk, but when it comes to walk the walk, no, they can't.
Okay, but let me say this. Can we before you go, Trey, can we agree that more than one thing can be true at the same time? There's a law of diminishing returns. You cannot be 100% certain of anything, right? Your courting, or whatever you want to call it, vetting and all that shit, is it's a law of diminishing returns, and it's all a risk reduction. You're never going to reduce the risk to zero. It's not going to happen, no matter if it takes 10 years or 20 years. You can't reduce. Okay, the zero risk is don't get married. Yeah, but come on, man. I'm talking about for a guy who wants to get married, Trey. Come on, man. If you don't want to get married, we don't have to have this conversation at all.
It's not about whether or not they want to get married. You have to ask them why. What do you stand to gain from it?
Okay.
What do you stand to gain from it? And if you're telling me that I've got to go through all of this to reduce the risk of me getting the short end of the stick at the end, why would I do that? That doesn't make any sense. Hold on.
Go ahead.
It's the sense you would never sign a contract knowing if this thing tanks, I'm taking all of the brunt of it. You would never sign that contract. None of you. Ekene would never sign that contract. Payne, you would never sign that contract. But somehow when it comes down to women, it's like us men, we lose all of our sense, we lose all of our logic, we lose all of our rationale. And it's like, well, you know what? She might be different. And then the older men, you guys feed them this hope strategy. You feed them this needle in the haystack, needle in the haystack strategy. Like, oh, you can find the one. You can find the one woman who won't be like that. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Well, Trey, let me put it to you this way. Just like I said during this whole live, marriage is not going to be for everyone, right? Because it actually always is a risk reduction. There's no way around it. If the only alternative is not to get married, then every man who gets married is willing to take the risk of marriage. That's what it is. He's taking a risk, especially the way things are set up. And some risks pay off and a lot, 50% of them don't. And what else can we say? Oh, we should change the laws. They say they're starting to change in some areas, never fast enough. But that's why I said marriage is not for everybody. But if it is for you, you still have to go through some kind of motions. I mean, you gotta grant me this. You don't have to, but the point is, if a man and woman actually want to get married, they gotta go through some kind of process in order to get there. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's why I say that cohabitation is important. If because she listed a stat and she said that 60% of them don't make it. That's perfect. That means that it's working. If you cohabitate with somebody, and y'all can't make it, great. You just saved you the marriage. Right. Like, it's one of the things I'm very happy about. Like with my ex, I'm glad that we rented a house together for 3 years. Because it told me everything I need to know. And I would have hated to have married her first, bought the house, and then we got a divorce.
Right.
Like the cohabitation part of this, like, okay, if there's a process, then why are we not encouraging people? No, y'all need to go get a place together. Y'all need to be together for a year living in that place to see if y'all even like each other. There's a show on Netflix. It's called Love is Blind. There's a show on Netflix called Love is Blind. Guess what they do? Guess what they do with them?
They just get married right away?
No. Before they get married, right after they get engaged, guess what they do? They put them in the same house together.
House, okay. I heard the show. I never watched it.
That plays a huge part in it because it gives you a small taste of this is what I can expect if I were to get married.
All right. So everything they said, though, I don't necessarily agree with. Right? They're coming from their perspective. That's why you only take nuggets that make sense to you. Right? There's a lot of people, no matter what anybody says, they're going to live together. Right? I'm not going to tell people not to live together. If they want to live together, go ahead and find out. But all I'm just trying to say, that's why I try to limit this whole conversation for people who wanted to get married. But it's still because I look at it as a risk reduction, and I think that's timeless. I think it was a risk in '87, and it's a risk now. And the risk now is don't try to talk anybody into marriage, male or female. So we're not going to come into this thing at an equal pace. Some men might want to be married. Some women might want to be married, but if your spouse or your prospect doesn't want to be married, don't waste your time.
I gotta say this, Trey. If you ever take two people that want to get married and put them in the same house for 3 years, they will divorce so quick, so fast. No, in fact, not divorce. The marriage will not happen at all.
Well, why not? Why wouldn't the marriage not happen?
I'll tell you why.
Yeah, go ahead.
the level of tolerance that you have as a man that is not maritally committed to a woman is so low compared to the level of tolerance you have when you marry to the person.
Bro, I'm out.
It
I'm out.
goes both
He's
ways.
I'm out. I'm out.
Before you leave, don't leave yet, man.
I'm leaving because he's getting ready. He's getting ready to get the prison speech. All he's getting ready to say is the man is now in prison, so he has to put up with it now because he got married.
No. It goes both ways. It's not just the man. It's not just the man.
Here's the thing, R-Pain. I agree with you. There needs to be a process because I'm gonna go. There needs to be a process.
Okay.
One of the things that needs to be in this process is a man shouldn't even be considering getting married until he's 35 years old. He can afford a 3-bedroom home on his own. He needs to be able to have leverage and options.
Yeah, that's
number
right.
one. He shouldn't even be considering marriage, right? If you want to have this, if you want to have a serious process, the reason why you need to move in is for that reason, so you know whether or not you want to. I agree with you, R-Pain. What's the big deal? If y'all move in together and y'all can make it through the 3 years, odds are you're probably going to do pretty well. But one of the reasons why they aren't making is probably it's actually saving you time and money to not do it.
I agree with that. I agree with that. You can't make it through that. Yeah, man. Take it easy, man. Thanks for coming up. So, Economy, man, let me tell you this, man. The point is, the premise you started with was saying if you want to be married. And to me, that want and that desire to be married should carry you through some tough times, whether it's living together or not living together. Because the challenge is, do you really want to get married? So the thing that changes your mind shouldn't be just because you're living together. Because even if you were not living together, if she has red flags, those red flags still exist.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to say. Living together doesn't guarantee that the marriage is going to be successful after the wedding. Yeah, because a lot of people that have lived together then got married and divorced like after
but
a couple of months.
I don't know if there's a hard statistic one way or the other.
It's not it's not a hard statistic. But what I'm saying is that
the lady said I'd like to see where she got that from.
Temperament. It's all about temperament because temperament is not you not getting pissed off about things, but how you handle the situation at the end without letting it get out of hand. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
a lot of people may not have that, but at the same time, when it comes to people being raised right, it's just too much that people are not going to be able to handle when they stay with somebody in the house and then get married and some things change. You also have to understand that people can also hide themselves.
Right.
And if you have a girl and you have her in one house and you guys are 1 year together, 2 years together, 3 years together, she might actually act out of character because you're not guaranteeing her you're not guaranteeing her marriage. She might be frustrated and then act out of character because she's not getting an assurance from you. You see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you is that for every scenario, there's another one, right? So it's no wrong answer here. The truth of the matter is that's why I wanted to start from the premise that both the man and the woman want to actually be married. That to me, the assumption I'm making is that they actually want to cross those hurdles to come closer together to find out the real essence of whether they can actually survive together for the long term, for life, to death do they part. And it's still always a risk reduction. You're never going to be 100% sure any of that stuff. Just like Trey said, you should just say when you wait till you're 35, looking for a younger woman of childbearing age, and you got your shit together, your level of discernment should be higher. But the woman now is looking at you as a successful man. Come closer to the finish line. So does she want your success?
Yeah.
Or she wants you?
No, I agree with Trey on that. A man married under the age of 30 is not a good thing.
It's still a risk reduction. No matter how you slice it, you still got to vet the woman. At 35, you still got to vet the woman.
You still have to, but the man being up to 35 is from 35 and up is good age to get married. But I'm not talking about the woman, I'm talking about the man.
No, we're talking about the man. I'm just saying it. But if you're still going to commit at 35 when you have all your assets together, you're still taking a risk. I think you're taking more of a risk.
The only one, discernment.
a minute. You're taking more of a risk at 35, getting married, with all your shit and your ducks in a row, than at 25, because you don't have shit. So,
Okay.
so you know, I'm just saying you got to protect yourself at all times. So there's a lot of ways to look at this. But that's why I started with the premise that you want to be married. You know, we can't keep glossing over that.
Yeah.
Right? That both people want to be married. That's the most important thing that I'm talking about. Because if if you're not going for that plan, then everything we just talked about is going to derail it.
Yeah, but just to add something to that, discernment is where I agree with Trey mostly. But in terms of getting your stuff together, okay, when I was saying that I agree with Trey, I didn't remember that he said something about having all your things together. Having all your things together, I think is good for marriage, but it's not the best way to get somebody that will actually be there for you. You see, finances is very, very good for marriage, but finances would also attract the wrong woman. But if you don't have anything at all, I don't even encourage marriage either. You got to have something to come to the marriage
Listen,
as
you
a
got to
man.
just be able to, well, hold on. You see, I think we keep talking about it. All you got to do is be able to take care of yourself. That's what I'm saying.
No, beyond yourself. You have to be able to take beyond yourself.
No. All you got to do is be able to take care of yourself. You got to be able to pay your rent, drive a car, have a phone, feed yourself. And if a woman wants to come in, because you ain't going to stay in that position at 25, 26. A woman coming in, she knows that you ain't rich, but you can sustain the household that you're in. Now, here's the only reason why that doesn't work. If a guy thinks he's going to take care of a woman in a family where she sits on her ass and ain't putting no money in the kitty, then that's the problem. Right? So the fact is, you know, like I said, I believe younger is better than older, but we can debate back and forth. But that's a subject for another show. Anyhow, man, I want to get out of here. Ekanay, man, thanks for stopping up, man. We got some points, and you know, we'll be talking about this. I think I'm gonna be more, you know, marriage ain't for everybody, but I think we should talk about it more, and maybe we should have some discussions on whether it's younger is better than older. Because the receipts out there say older ain't that much, older ain't good. I mean, you know, for men, go ahead. Say your last words there. Go ahead.
Yeah, older is usually not good for a certain reason, especially when you have to deal with kids and also getting a younger woman for kids. You might not be able to do the things you want to do at an older age. That is one thing with older might not be able to do that. At a younger age, you can be able to run those things, you know, keep up with her, keep up with the kids at a younger age. But also, you also coming to the family broke. You see what I'm saying? So that's one thing that younger marriage is not good for.
We got to define what broke means, right? When I was 24, I had a full-time job. I had a plan, you know, and I was getting promoted almost every other year. So I don't know what is broke. You know,
A lot of young marriage out there they are very broke. Not every it's only 25%. It's only 25% of Americans have college degree. You got to know that.
You know, that has nothing to do with whether you can make money or not, right?
No. I'm just using that as an example because you have one. Then if you look at it, almost another 40% of that actually are handy. They don't need college degree to work, and they still make money.
Right.
But you also have, but I'm coming real quick. But you also have that on men under the age of 25, more than 50% of them don't have money. They can't
I don't know what they don't have money means. You mean they don't have a job?
They can't sustain their own bill. They have roommates.
So they got money. So listen, what I'm trying to say is that in the society we have today, it's not just men. Everybody's being outpaced by inflation. Right. So we're gonna say that our society should fall apart because what? We can't sustain a family, maybe not by yourself. But women are ones working as well. So we gotta look at it. I'm not saying if you can't sustain your life, you should get married. I'm not saying that. There's got to be some limits to, not limits. There's got to be some understanding when we talk where we ain't talking about the extremes. If you can't pay your light bill, no, you shouldn't get married. You know, that's the difference. We ain't talking about those people. We're talking about people who are prepared to move on with their life and who have a future and have a plan to do something that is a measurable plan. But hey, man, I gotta go, man. Let me get out of here. I got one more thing. I'm gonna show people, man. Thanks for coming up, brother. Listen, you know, I'm here every Monday at 7, man. Every Monday at 7. Different topic, you know. And so feel free to pop in. All right, man. Later on, brother. And for everybody out there, I got one more thing like I always do now. I guess it's going to be my signature. And I still got to say that I'm an advocate for marriage, but I know it's not for everyone. And so let's go ahead and kind of put that out the way. I was glad that Trey came up and said his piece because, of course, it's like I don't think there's any wrong answers or one wrong way to look at it, but I don't think courting is archaic. Just not enough people are not doing it anymore. And I think maybe we should bring some of these traditions back for the people who want a traditional kind of marriage or courtship, both men and women. It can't be one-sided because it's definitely not going to work. So anyway, let me leave you with this, and we're going to say good night. Thanks to the chat and everything.
In a world that spins so fast, we built a bond that's gonna last. Hand in hand, we face the days, through the highs and all the waves. Commitment, marriage, and family, roots that grow so steadfastly. In the laughter, in the tears, together conquering our fears. Oh, this journey side by side, in our hearts we take the ride. What up? Days of sunshine, nights of dreams, we're the anchor or so it seems. With every story that we share, building memories blooms the love we bear. Commitment, marriage, and family, roots that grow so steadfastly. In the laughter, in the tears, together conquering our fears. On this journey side by side, in our hearts we take the ride. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. When the storms are raging, we won't part. With every beat you hold my heart. Through every chapter we'll embrace. In this life we found our place. Commitment, marriage, and family, roots that grow so steadfastly. In the laughter, in the tears, together conquering our fears. On this journey side by side, in our hearts we take the ride. So let's keep dreaming hand in hand, in this beautiful life we've planned. With every promise that we make, together forever we won't break.
Well, thank you for the chat and everybody who stuck around. Milani, thanks for sticking it out. And Ekene and Trey for coming up. And BMU and everybody else who was in the chat all night. I appreciate it. So good night until next week. Happy New Year.
All right, guys, another one in the books. Another great episode on the Black Man Unfiltered Network. Listen, we're doing the thing over here. So, guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button. Also, if you want to donate to the channel, which helps the channel, hit your boy Cash App. It's scrolling right here, right there, at the bottom of the screen. And support the channel. But we're happy that you're here, and we look forward to seeing you on every episode. So hit the notification button so you know when we go live. Thank you again, guys, for watching. We out.